I felt very much like I was heard, and that as odd or as strange as it seemed, like the things that I was telling the therapist or the doctor, they had an answer for it. And working through that process of getting those answers helped significantly. My name is Matthew Scott. I live in Springville, Utah, and I am 39. A few months after my concussion, I got treated by a concussion center, and then I went back to them a few times for kind of check-in days. And it was probably, the time frame, I'm not so sure. It was probably a year after I treated with them, I went back and was working with them for the day, and they kept working on my eyes and visual stuff, and I kept telling them, guys, I know that my eyes aren't perfect, but I don't think that that's that much of a problem. There's other things that I would prioritize over working on my eyes. Why are we making such a big deal out of my eyes? And at the end of the day, they told me, you should probably go and talk to these guys at the vision therapy clinic. And I didn't think that I needed it. I thought that I was going to just come in and get checked and kind of check the box. And for them to say, yeah, you're doing okay, you don't really need this. So even once I came in and they did the assessment and they showed me everything that wasn't working well with my eyes, I still wasn't necessarily believing it or buying it. Maybe it was denial, but and then as soon as I started working on it, it was more apparent. And once we started to stress that system of how much that system was really out of whack, and it was surprising to me how bad it was, because I didn't have that perception necessarily.
When I first met Matt, he was still struggling with some of the symptoms from his concussion that he had had a few years earlier. He didn't feel like things were that bad, but he was convinced by other providers to come and see us to help with some vision issues. After we met that very first time, I could tell that he was definitely experiencing some visual problems and that there were things we could help him with. He was having visually driven headaches and migraines, and a significant amount of visual overwhelm that was bothering him in many aspects of his life, from everything from his work to spending time with his family and his children.
The symptoms that I was having before vision therapy, I would have a lot of anxiety and like overwhelm and startle when I was driving. And so I work in Orem, I live in Springville, I'm commuting on the freeway every single day. And it was terrible. It wasn't like that every day, but certain days, car would pass me on the side, and it would startle me. I get the heart rate response, and then I would just feel startled for the next 10 minutes maybe, and I had no idea what it was. Turned out it was because my peripheral vision wasn't processing things properly, and so things were happening on the outside of my vision that freaking my brain out, and I had no idea that it was related to my vision. And so once we worked on that, I don't have those symptoms anymore. I don't even think about it while I'm driving. Other symptoms I'd have headaches. I have a lot of headaches. I would say pretty much close to a constant headache, and probably once a day, a quite severe headache that would kind of take my concentration and be hard to function with. Other symptoms, I'd get moments of like dizziness, certain times that things would go across my visual field, or I'd turn my head, and typically it was just kind of a sudden onset of, and it would kind of take me a second to gather myself, and other times I'd lose my balance and tip over. And I knew there was things related to my concussion that were more my inner ear or other things. And so again, I knew that my vision system wasn't working perfect and was causing some of those, but I had no idea the extent that it was. Other ones even that again, I didn't think that they had anything to do with my eyes. Is I would just get overwhelmed very easily. All right. this stuff for a while. So I've got 4 kids, and it was really hard for me to be around my kids because I would get very overwhelmed with it. And that was the worst thing is I hated how hard it was for me to be around my family, around my kids. And they're little and they've got lots of energy so I just took that as I get overwhelmed and I get overstimulated very easily. And I didn't realize how much my eyes were playing a part in that. Everything going on around me it was too much for my eyes. It was too much for my brain to process. And it seemed pretty silly to me in doing the eye exercises and things that would correlate to that. So for me, the vision therapy process was harder than I expected. That doesn't sound great to say that, but I wasn't expecting it to be very hard. I'm used to exercising. I'm used to doing hard things physically, and this was very different. It wasn't a type of hard that I can necessarily control. I mean, it was. I just didn't realize how off my eyes were and how much work it was going to take to get them back to normal. And so I think I right away I could tell that, yeah, it was a strain, and this was difficult. That being said, the therapists were fantastic. I worked with a few different therapists when I would come in. They were all fantastic. They were very kind. When I was struggling more, they were very reassuring and very positive. It's hard when there's something that you can't necessarily control, that you're trying and you're working and you're doing everything you can. It's like, I don't know why I can't get this. And to have somebody there that says, it's okay, that's part of the process. We're pushing you hard. This should be hard. Was really, really reassuring for me. And plus it was a bit hard there were certain things that I could notice that I would say improved quite quickly. And other things not as much. And so I would come and to have the therapist to say, Matt, this is getting better significantly. This is what your numbers were. This is what your test looked like a few weeks ago, and this is what the test looks like now, helped significantly for me to say, okay, we're making a difference. I can keep going. I think that my symptoms were a little bit atypical. There were certain things for me that I would come in and I would do the test, and it felt totally normal to me. I didn't feel limited. I didn't feel impaired at all. My numbers were fantastic. And the other ones that were such a struggle. And so that didn't make a lot of sense to me on why one was easy, one was hard. The doctors, the therapists always had a good answer for me. And they would switch and they would customize my treatment specific to what was difficult for me. And so I never felt like I was wasting my time or that I was doing things that I didn't need or that weren't beneficial for me. But from my perspective, they did a very good job of thinking outside the box. I would come in and I would report to them symptoms that didn't make any sense to me. And the therapist or Dr. Smith would say, let's try something. And he would get this look in his eyes and he would get this excitement, like, why are you excited about this? And then he would come in with a pair of glasses or with something and would say, try this. And I tried a few times. I had no idea what I was doing and would try it a little bit. He'd send me home with something and it would help. I felt very much like I was heard, and that as odd or as strange as it seemed like the things that I was telling the therapist or the doctor, they had an answer for it. And working through that process of getting those answers helped significantly. The things that changed in my life afterwards, the benefits that I saw after doing vision therapy, some of them were pretty slight and I didn't necessarily notice them right away. The startle and the overwhelm driving in traffic, that was something that I noticed that got better eventually, but it was still there even after finishing. it just seemed like all the time it was just getting a little bit better, and then eventually it got to the point that, oh, I haven't noticed those symptoms. And I think that a lot of my symptoms were that way. I think when I initially finished the vision therapy, I was tired. My eyes were tired, my brain was tired. To say that I finished vision therapy and it was like, oh my goodness, I feel fantastic. That wasn't the case for me. There was enough improvements in things. I had less headaches, significantly less headaches. That was one of the things that went away the fastest. Even though my brain was tired, my eyes were tired, my headaches were significantly less. I got them less often. When I would get them, they were far less intense. Busy situations, going to church for me was so extremely difficult. And part of that was my eyes, part of that was my ears. But the change in visual field for me from church, that was one of the worst symptoms that I had after my concussion. And it took me a long time to figure out what it was. But I would sit in church, and within a few minutes, I would just be boiling over. And it didn't take very long for it to be like, this is more. Yeah, sitting in church for a few minutes was more than I could take. And I had to go out and walk the halls or walk around outside or things. And they gave me some prism glasses, and I would wear those to church, and it changed how my eyes would focus and how easy it was for me to switch from looking at my kids to looking at the speaker to going back and forth. And I didn't realize that was the problem. Once I did, and they said, here's a solution, here's the quick fix, put these glasses on and that will help. It did instantly. I mean, that's kind of a simple example, but it changed significantly. The first day that I wore the prism glasses to church, my wife was used to me just kind of disappearing, and I'd usually walk home or something like that. And she met me at the end of church. I come out and she looked at me. She's like, "You're still here?" I said, "Yeah, I'm still here." She's like, "How are you doing?" I said, "I'm actually doing okay. I can take this." There were certain things like that just made a huge difference right away, and yeah, it changed everything for me. Now it's been a few years. I don't have to wear them anymore. So my eyes have adjusted. They've gotten better, and I don't wear them at church anymore, which I love it.
We worked with Matt for about 5 months. And the first time I met with him was about 2 months into his treatment. And the best news that he told me was that he'd only had one migraine in those 2 months. He'd gone from having one every other week to only one in 2 months. Those headaches had come down significantly, which was huge progress for him. He also was still dealing with his visual overwhelm, and so we tried to make that a big focus. I met with him again 2 months later, and the visual overwhelm was still a problem, but we were now down to just 1 or 2 minor headaches a week. His migraines were gone, and those little tiny headaches he was still having were almost completely eliminated. It was a huge step forward, and it was making a big difference in his life. His visual overwhelm was somewhat improved, and the thing I will never forget Matt telling me that day is that he told me he could go to church for the first time without feeling like he wanted to leave because his vision was so overwhelmed. He told me that he could spend time with his kids and enjoy their company instead of constantly feeling like he needed to leave the room to go rest. And that was all just because of the work that we'd done with his vision. We did another month of treatment or so with Matt to try and continue to reduce some of the symptoms he was having, in particular the overwhelm. And nothing that we were doing in therapy was working as well as we wanted to. So we had to pivot. And we ended up sending Matt home with some glasses with prism in them. And the prism was designed to help his eyes sit in a more comfortable, relaxed position. And by doing this, that reduced his symptoms very significantly. It was a little bit of an adjustment period to wear glasses, because he'd never worn them before, but it helped his symptoms so much. And over the course of the next few months, I saw him periodically as we adjusted that prescription. And having just seen him for a follow-up recently, Matt's doing great. He doesn't even really need the glasses very frequently anymore. And he feels like his symptoms are at a point where they are manageable and easy to deal with.
Probably, I think maybe I came back after 3 months. And they did a few other things. They gave me a different pair of glasses to wear for certain situations. And I think 3 months after that, I came back, and really it was a few months after, maybe it was 6 months afterwards, that I came in and therapists and doctors asked me how I was doing. And it was at that point that I said, it's making a huge difference. I can finally tell. My eyes feel better. The overwhelm feels better. I don't remember the last time that I've had these certain symptoms.
I have been thrilled with Matt's progress, and he's been a pleasure to work with. I really have enjoyed trying to help him with his symptoms. Were we able to resolve all of his problems? No, we weren't, because that's the nature of working with concussions sometimes. But we were able to improve his quality of life in a significant way. And now Matt and I work together regularly as we send patients back and forth. I will often send him patients that are struggling with dizziness and vestibular problems that he can help with physical therapy, and he sends me referrals back to work with vision problems. We've been so grateful for all of the mutual patients that we've been able to share and work with on together, just because we were able to help Matt. And that's been my favorite part about this whole process, is not only have we helped Matt improve his quality of life, but our teamwork, our collaboration has helped to improve the lives of so many others.
Absolutely, yes. I would recommend Nearsight Vision Therapy Clinic. I have sent people here already. I've sent my kids here just for the regular eye exams, and they do a great job. My wife has worn glasses her entire life. She's had eye exams from so many different places. She's the one that brought my kids in, and my wife says, holy cow, they did so much more at that office with the regular eye exam than I'd ever seen or had done in my entire life, which made me feel really good as a dad, because I know if there's something going on with my kids' eyes, that these guys are going to find it. And so, yeah, I've a lot of confidence and trust in them with my own kids, with my own friends and family. I work as a physical therapist. I work with people that have concussions and head injuries and car accidents, and vision issues are something that I see fairly often in the office. And so I send my patients here often as well. So.